Hello everyone and welcome to my Coronation Street official today. Please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. If you thought you had seen everything Coronation Street had to offer, this week provoked you completely wrong. The explosive jaw-dropping physical confrontation between Swain and Jodie has shaken Weatherfield to its very core. And honestly, the fan community has not stopped talking about it since. What started as a simmering tension-filled verbal exchange between two incredibly strong-willed women suddenly erupted into one of the most raw, intense, and emotionally devastating altercations the show has delivered in years. This was not a scripted moment designed purely for shock value. This was the kind of storytelling that grabs you by the chest and refuses to let go. Weeks of carefully layered conflict, unspoken grievances, and bubbling resentments finally broke the surface, and when it did, absolutely nobody was ready for the force of it. The writers built this slowly, deliberately, and painfully, and the payoff was nothing short of extraordinary. To really understand the weight of this moment, you have to go back and appreciate just how much pressure had been building beneath the surface. Long before that confrontation ever happened, Swain is not the kind of character who snaps easily. That is the whole point of her. She's composed, calculated, and someone who carries her emotional burdens with a quite almost stubborn sense of dignity. Watching her in the weeks leading up to this episode, you could see the cracks forming, the exhaustion behind her eyes, the forced smiles, the way she would pause just a second too long before responding to certain people. She was holding herself together with everything she had, balancing the weight of her personal life, her professional responsibilities, and the deep lingering shadow of past trauma that never truly left her. I cannot imagine carrying all of that and still trying to function normally in a place like Weatherfield, where nothing ever stays quiet for long. And then there is Jodie. From that moment she entered the show, Jodie was never going to be the type of character who blends into the background. She is confrontational, unapologetic, and carries a dangerous kind of energy. The kind that does not just provoke arguments but actively dismantles the carefully constructed emotional walls that people build around themselves. Jodie has a way of exposing uncomfortable truths, of saying the things that other people dare not to say out loud, and doing it without an ounce of remorse. For someone like Lisa, already stretched to her absolute limit, being on the receiving end of Jodie's particular blend of chaos was never going to end quietly. I can't believe she pushed it that far, but at the same time, knowing what we know about Jodie, it feels like this was always where things were heading. The confrontation itself unfolds with a breathtaking sense of urgency. The dialogue in the lead-up to the physical altercation is some of the sharpest writing the show has produced recently, with every single line carrying a double meaning, a buried accusation, or a raw emotional wound being pressed against. He can feel the temperature of every scene rising incrementally, the pauses growing heavier, the looks becoming more loaded. When the argument tips over from words into action, it does not feel sudden. It feels inevitable. That is the genius of how this was structured. Imagine how Lisa must have felt in that exact moment. All of the control she had fought so hard to maintain just evaporating, replaced by something primal and terrifying that she could not pull back once it was unleashed. That moment of no return is what makes this scene so devastatingly powerful to watch. And what makes it hit even harder is the reaction of everyone around them. Weatherfield is a community built on watching, judging, and remembering. The people nearby do not just witness the fight, they absorb it, file it away, and begin reinterpreting everything they thought they knew about Lisa. That shift in perception is arguably more damaging than the fight itself. Neighbors who once saw her as dependable and grounded now carry a different image in their minds, one that no amount of apologies or explanations can fully erase. For the people closest to Lisa, the shock goes even deeper. Watching someone you care about step completely outside the boundaries of who you believed them to be is a particular kind of heartbreak, quite confusing and deeply unsettling. Meanwhile, Jodie's position in the aftermath is fascinatingly complex. She is not crumbling, she is not retreating. If anything, the confrontation seems to energize her sense of self, solidifying her role as someone who refuses to be dismissed or ignored. The community's reactions to her involvement are divided and heated, with some holding her equally responsible and others placing the full blame on Lisa. That division is exactly the kind of social chaos that Jodie thrives in, and the show is making no secret of the fact that she is nowhere near done stirring the pot. The ripple effect of this confrontation is going to be felt across Coronation Street for a very long time, and the show seems fully committed to exploring every uncomfortable layer of it. For Lisa, this fight is not just a dramatic event she can recover from and move past. It is a fundamental fracture in her sense of self. The woman who prided herself on keeping it together has shown the street a version of herself she never wanted anyone to see. And that exposure carries a psychological weight that does not simply dissolve after a few episodes. There will be moments where she tries to rationalize what happened, where she tells herself it was justified, that Jodie pushed her there, that anyone would have done the same, but deep down, the nagging voice of self-doubt is going to be relentless. And the show seems perfectly positioned to explore what happens to a person when their own internal narrative about who they are begins to collapse. The trust dynamics within the wider Weatherfield community are equally fascinating to dissect. Communities like this operate on a shared understanding of who people are, and when someone violently disrupts that understanding, the social fabric tears in ways that take enormous effort to repair. If they can be repaired at all, friendships will be tested, loyalties will fracture, and new alliances will quietly form in the background as people choose their sides. The writers are setting up a social minefield that Lisa and Jodie are both going to have to navigate, and neither of them is going to come through it unscathed. And this is where Coronation Street quietly shifts from drama into something far more human, something far more uncomfortable, because what we have just seen isn't just a fight back. It's a crack in who Lisa believes she is, and once that crack appears, it never fully disappears. Because here's the truth, when someone who prides themselves on control finally loses it, the real story doesn't start in the moment of impact. It starts in the silence of the word, when everything feels different, when every look from other carries judgment, and when self-doubt becomes louder than any argument. And honestly, this is what makes this storyline hit harder than most. It's not about who won the fight, it's about who Lisa becomes after it. Because there is a real danger here that she doesn't bounce back. She changes slowly, subtly, but permanently. At the same time, Jodie isn't just walking away from this either. Not really. Because people like her don't just disappear after causing chaos. They lean into it, and that raises a chilling question. Was this explosion an accident or just the beginning of something much bigger? Personally, I think this moment was a turning point, not a peak. And that's what makes it so powerful. Because instead of closing a chapter, it's opened a much darker one, where consequences won't come all at once, they will build quietly episode by episode. So now the real tension begins. Will Lisa try to fix what's broken, or will she start justifying it, little by little, until she doesn't recognize herself anymore? And what about Jodie? Will she push further, or has she set something in motion that can't be stopped? And here's something to really think about. If this is how far things went in public, what happens the next time? And when no one is around to step in? And if trust in Weatherfield is already shaken, who's going to be the next person pulled into this fallout? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to know what side you are on and where you think the storyline goes from here. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a single update from Coronation Street Official today.